You come up with one thing, I'll come up with one thing that we appreciate and respect about liberals.
You know what? That's the guy who's gonna like lead us into like the apocalypse. Like,
Do you want to practice now? Because I actually
Sure.
slightly disagree with you.
rape's very bad. That's
Yep.
not a hot take.
Welcome to the Young Patriots podcast. This is your host, Devin Romero. I'm with our co-host, Aiden MacArthur,
Howdy.
and we're with our guest, Talmage Perry.
Hey, everybody.
So, Talmage actually has become pretty famous on Instagram recently. We wanted to give him some more fame, and we wanted to kind of talk about how he came about all of this journey of trying to be a peacemaking politician, not politician. But
peacemaker.
Yeah.
In politics. We get what you mean.
So go ahead and just introduce yourself to the audience.
All right. Well, hey, everybody. I'm Talmage Perry. I'm 22 years old. I grew up in Jerome, Idaho, until like my senior year of high school, where I moved to Kuna, which is where I met Aiden,
Represent,
actually.
baby.
Yeah, go Kuna cavemen. And
With a K. The Cavens with a K.
yeah, I think it's creative, also spelled with a K. And I don't know, I've got a small army of younger siblings, 11 younger siblings that I love very much. And I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Yep. So fun fact there, Talmage and I actually went to the same mission. So we both served in the North Carolina Charlotte mission.
Absolutely.
We both loved it, it sounds like.
Oh, yeah, I had a great time there.
And we both actually had the same mission president, me for only like 3 or 4 months, but his whole mission was with that mission president. And it was just crazy because I left and went back home in October of 2021, and he left the MTC and served in North Carolina in December of that same year. So we literally just barely missed each other. It's crazy.
Yeah, it really is. Shout out to Thaddeus Brown if you happen to be watching this, by the way.
The OG.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So let's just go ahead and get right into it. What is the story of your Instagram page's journey?
Well, that's kind of interesting. I think there's a lot of steps to it. Just last year, I picked political science as my major because I'd always been interested in politics, and I don't know, I had to pick some major, and that seemed like a good one. I didn't really know what I wanted to do with it, and I still kind of figuring that out. But the more I learned from my college classes about politics, the less it made sense to me how angry everyone was at each other because they were fighting it. Like, I started to learn things from like new perspectives and be like, you know what, that makes sense. But I'd have a lot of family members that have like, kind of feel like, this is, evil because it's not like our political preferences. And it just started to strike me as like, well, I don't know, how often do we do this? How often do we have like this false perception of the other party? So I started this page kind of with the belief that like, I don't know, most liberals aren't as crazy as they seem online, and most Republicans aren't as crazy as they seem online, and I wanted to prove it. So I just put a bunch of content out there, and if people who kind of wanted some peace between the parties liked it, then there'd be a chance for them to show it. So yeah, it started to explode, and I've been really happy with it. I'm going to keep doing it for a while.
That's awesome. So when you started, what time period was this? Was it?
It was late July of just this year where I started it. I was preparing to go back to school, and I had like some time on my hands in between jobs for a few weeks. So I decided to just start the page just for fun. Didn't expect it to really go anywhere huge. But I'm kind of glad it got a little bit more traction. And that just kind of led to where we are now. And I don't know, it started to get more attention after the Charlie Kirk assassination. People really felt the need for peace and peaceful dialogue at that point.
Yeah, it totally makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And just so you guys know, he's actually up to 57,000 plus followers on his page. So, I mean, when we're talking exploded, we mean exploded. I mean, this is a few months, and this guy has seen tens of thousands of people resonate with his message. And we resonated with the message too, because that's exactly what we started this podcast for, was we need to bridge the divide. We're still going to be honest. We're still going to be talking about what we believe, but there is room for disagreement. There's room for civility in that disagreement.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. Thanks for starting that, by the way. I'm sure there's lots of people that you've touched through that channel, or I don't know what you call it actually. Is it a page?
Channel, account? I don't know. I've always been
Account.
saying page. Like,
Okay.
Like it's my page. But yeah, I don't know. I guess any of those works.
Perfect. And we're actually going to have you go through one of your, I would say, most challenging invitations that you sent out to your followers. Go ahead and read some of the impact that it has. Give some context about the post.
Absolutely. So the videos that have performed the best on my page, they're very simple. They just ask conservatives, say something nice about liberals. Just like a 5-second long video. And a bunch of people were able to come up with really great comments. And I made another video asking liberals to do the same for conservatives. And I have a few of like my favorite responses, or like commonly occurring responses here with me. Liberals said about conservatives, they've got great barbecue. They tend to have like an awesome sense of community as well, which is something that I've noticed and really value as well. They tend to value hard work, not just their own, but hard work in other people as well. And they respect their veterans, the people who serve this country. And most importantly, like a lot of liberals just got on there to say, you know what, they're my family and I love them, which I thought was just great. Like whether you disagree with everything about, the Republican Party, they're still family and I still love them, which is great. For liberals, conservatives said some of the following. They said great coffee. I wouldn't know if that's true, but I believe it. I don't drink coffee. I also, another common compliment was that they're very empathetic and very caring, which is also something that I value a lot and I've seen and agree with. They also tend to be very creative. There's a lot of liberals in like any kind of entertainment industry, and I love movies and I love music, and there's a lot of liberal creators in all of those fields, so I'd have to agree with that. They also said that they tend to really care about mental health issues, and that they also said that they're my family as well, and I love them even if I disagree with everything. So yeah, I've been really, really excited about like the kind of direction that people were going with those videos. And if there's more content like that, I think that can really help us come together, even though we're really divided right now.
That's awesome. I'm honestly so moved by how those responses, I had not heard the list. I asked them to prepare it, and I'm like, just hit us with it in the episode. That is so much more powerful, and I'd say even honest. Like you can feel the genuineness in those responses.
Absolutely.
I think it's good timing too, if I may. Thanksgiving's coming up, and there's that huge stereotype where everyone's all on edge because someone's going to mention something about politics, and then it's just a civil war. I mean, think of those responses as you're having Thanksgiving dinner, or as you're having any dinner. I've got plenty of people that are close to me that I love that are on the other side of the political spectrum than me. Just remember, hey, they've got these values. At the root of all their craziness, both left and right, they're funded on some good values. Just remember that and talk about it. Please talk about politics this Thanksgiving, and then just find the common ground. It's not hard. Just
do what we're doing.
Swallow your pride.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm talking to myself too, Mom. I get it.
Well, and I think that's something we need to do as well, is be honest and be vulnerable. Because if you were to ask me, which is exactly what happened when I first saw the video, to come up with nice things to say about liberals, honestly, I would struggle. And that's not a good thing. That's not a thing for me to applaud.
I agree, but you're also not alone in that. Like, I think it's pretty hard for everybody, but when people really took the time, like there are things, there really are, and I don't know, it was good to see.
I would bet that we will have an easier time being able to answer that question after several episodes of this podcast. Like we're really looking forward to when we can invite someone of a very different viewpoint from us, and we can kind of get some progress.
What if we
underway.
did that right now? You come up with one thing, I'll come up with one thing that we appreciate and respect about liberals.
Yeah.
Could you do
I
that
can
right
do
now?
that, yeah.
Yeah, that'd be super cool.
For me, if I really thought deeply about it, because I want it to be something meaningful, I have to say the closest thing I resonate to is the compassion. I do think there are some people on the left that are not using compassion as their motive, but that's the case on the right too. So the people that I see that are genuine, they're not politicians, They're just everyday normal people. And they probably identify as Democrat more than they're not a leftist. They're not a progressive.
Yeah, probably not. Yeah.
But if they're a liberal or a Democrat, more than likely, they do have a deep heart. They have a big heart for all people. And that's where some of these divides happen. Honestly, I think the right makes some big mistakes by attacking the left and by assuming the worst and calling them, evil or monsters or whatever is the case. And they lose sight of the fact that there are some people out there that genuinely care. And I think that the left does have a bigger heart for more groups of people if they're being genuine and being honest. I don't think I can say the same about the politicians.
Yeah, I think that's fair as well. That's one of the things that I've also tried to emphasize on the page, is that politicians are very different from the average people.
On both sides.
Yeah. I mean, I understand why people are upset with politicians. I'm upset with politicians pretty much every single day. But there's people who voted for those politicians, and they're just regular people, and I don't have anything against them, and I don't think I should either. I do think a lot of people are being genuine as well.
I agree.
Your turn, Aiden.
I resonate with the compassion thing too. I'm not going to piggyback off of you, but simply, I just like that they're out there fighting too.
That's true.
I mean, I don't agree with more than half of what they say, at least more than half of what I see on social media, what the media allows me to see. It's a great way to put it, actually.
Yeah.
But they're still passionate. They still believe in a better America for the most part, even if getting there, them and I are going to take different paths. They still want to make America a good place to live. I try to avoid saying great again, just because the connotation has. But they want to live in a good country, and they're fighting for what they believe in. And they do it a little bit crazy sometimes. I do a little bit crazy sometimes.
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, we're all in the same battle. We're fighting for a good America. I mean, we all want lower taxes. I think we can all kind of agree with that.
Yeah,
we all want freedoms that we all deserve. We could keep going on. I think we all align with that. We're just playing both sides of the ball, and we're getting confused at who's offense and who's defense when we're both playing offense. Someone's a receiver. Some people have to be O-line. Different roles, same job.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And just kind of throw my 2 cents in there about the left specifically. I don't know if I would call myself a Republican anymore, but I still lean to the right, for the most part. One thing I really value about liberals, kind of going along with what you said, is they really care about things like poverty and stuff in a way that I think Republicans can kind of lower down a little bit, or kind of downplay. That's the word I'm looking for. I don't know. I appreciate that. They really are always looking out for people who are disadvantaged. And even if I disagree with who they think is disadvantaged or how they want to help them, I do value that their priorities are in the right spot. As far as that goes, I really appreciate that.
It's almost like parenting. I mean, generally speaking, the mother's always going to be more nurturing and more easy on the kids, and you have the dad who kind of wants to teach them how to be a man and be a human in this world.
Yeah. And
then couples that succeed find that happy medium. And so I think we can do that with the world as well. Let the people who lean more left care about those who are impoverished, those who are less fortunate. Let them care and let them help. Let us figure out, all the things that kind of need more of an assertive mentality, be it war or the border, things like that. I don't know. We can figure out our roles. It doesn't mean we're on opposite sides, though.
Yeah,
I agree. Yeah, I think sometimes the old proverb is give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day. Teach a man to fish, and you feed him for life, and that's great. But I think sometimes we've gotten to the habit of someone is trying to give a fish, and we're slapping the fish out of their hands. Be like, don't give that man a fish. Teach him to fish instead.
Right.
And that's the wrong approach. That's not going to help anybody. Do both. Give him fish. Teach him how to fish. Do both. Just help people.
Right. Eventually, he does need to learn how he can fish.
Yeah, of course.
But fishing isn't going to do him any good if he doesn't have a fish. He needs to eat. That's the important part of the process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that's kind of where the left and right are. I think right are very good about teaching people to fish. So to speak.
Well, and I thought it was insightful when you talked about liberals appreciate that conservatives have a very strong value in work ethic. They value it so strongly, I would say that's where that pull yourself up by your bootstraps thinking comes from. Because they're thinking, well, I value hard work, and I believe anything can happen if I just work hard. And probably to the fault of forgetting that not everyone can get the same results by working hard.
Absolutely.
There are, groups of people that aren't able to. I think it's not as expansive as the left, makes it to be. I don't think we have a system of systemic racism, but we do have people that are struggling. We do have people that it's probably not enough to just hold them to that bootstraps logic.
Yeah, I would agree.
And we apologize, too, if there's any background noise coming. It sounds like there's a marching band going on nearby. It was perfect timing. They're just encouraging the conversation that we're having right now. So if you're hearing
they're actually cheering us on. That's what you're
true.
hearing.
Feel the vibe.
The second we get some sponsors, we'll actually be able to afford a place. I'm talking to you. Who do I want? I want Bucked Up to sponsor us. That's a later conversation.
That would be awesome.
That'd be so cool.
I
will take your product all day. I do all day long. Bucked Up, all your stuff. So sponsor us. Moving on.
We'll need to reach out to them.
I will. I'll talk to their shop down the street.
So real quick, give people a way to actually find your channel, your page on Instagram.
All right. Yeah. The username is just @peacemaking_politics. If you search that, there's it should be like the first thing that pops up, because I don't think anyone else has that name or anything similar. And I don't know. Just give it a follow. I don't know how you guys send the show out, but you can put a link in as well, possibly to the page.
Yep. At least, I don't know if we can do it on Spotify, but at least on YouTube, we'll make sure to put a link to your Instagram.
Sounds good.
So, awesome. Thanks, Aiden, for inviting us also to engage in that activity. I think that was much needed.
No problem. It's not like me. So
that's the whole point
Mom's
of this.
gonna like that one.
We're branching out. We're stretching our wings, and we're trying new things.
Good.
Okay, so a really big thing that we wanted to talk about is recently the presidency of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has had a shift. President Russell M. Nelson, who was the prophet since 2018, he's been an apostle for long since before that. He was 101 years old, one of the oldest people to live.
Take that, Betty White.
The oldest prophet, at least in the restored gospel, to live. And he was an amazing man. Actually, Talmage has some personal connection to President Nelson. We wanted to talk to him real quick about President Nelson and also the new presidency. President Oaks is now the prophet of the church. What do you have to say about Nelson first?
Absolutely. I don't know. My personal connections, I don't know. His words really, really resonated with me. And they helped me come up with not only the idea for the page that I'm running, but also, just kind of the kind of things that I post. He gave a sermon called Peacemakers Needed a while ago. I think it was in 2021, if I remember correctly. Right. And he was just encouraging people, especially politically. He just told people, he's like, you know what? Even if someone disagrees with everything that you stand for, an angry retort by you will not help. And just talking about like how we all need to be peacemakers. And he referenced the Sermon on the Mount. Blessed are the peacemakers. And it just really stuck out to me. And, it forms how I interact with people online every day, or at least I try to. It's just made a really big impact on me. And because he said peacemakers needed, I decided that I wanted to name my page Peacemaking Politics and kind of be a peacemaker the way he said was needed in today's society.
That's awesome. What do you think of President Oaks?
I'm just kind of like a funny side note. I'm super duper excited for how for this new first presidency, for Elder Oaks to be the president. That said, I've always kind of like jokingly said, like, you know what, that's the guy who's gonna like lead us into like the apocalypse. Like he's gonna be like the strong figure who just like says it how it is, offends everybody, and like it'll be like the great testing, and then the world will fall apart and Jesus will come again. He'll be the president that leads us through the apocalypse. So, and I don't know if that's really true. Far be it from me to guess, but
it's hyperbole for sure.
Yeah. And Elder Oaks is a great guy, and I think the perception of him is very different than the reality. But it is true that he just stands on truth pretty unapologetically, and that's something I admire as well. I admire being a peacemaker, but I also admire just being like, you know what, this is what's right, and you can like it, you can hate it, but I'm not going to apologize for it. So I don't know. I think it'll be a different direction, and I'm still gonna, continue kind of like this, bridging the divide type of thing. Elder Oaks isn't against that. President Oaks.
Nothing even close. He would not detest anything that President Nelson has said in the past.
But it will be just a little bit different. It will be like, like truth first. Ben Shapiro has like this saying like facts don't care about your feelings, and I feel like it's informed a lot of the right about like how like we treat people. It's all like pretty logical arguments. There's not a whole lot of emotional appeal on the right, but even if facts don't care about your feelings, I do care about your feelings, and so did President Nelson, so does Elder Oaks, and there's a balance to be struck there.
For sure. So just to give some people context, if you're not members of the church, there's kind of a context or a background that they assume that President Oaks was going to be really judgmental and just harsh. And it's really just stemmed from comments he's made about the LGBTQ community, just basically saying like that lifestyle, it's fine if you have those attractions, but that lifestyle is not in compliance with the Lord's will. And that's all he's saying. He's not trying to say anything other than just that is not part of our belief system. And so that's basically been turned into he's really harsh, he's really hateful, so a lot of things like that. But he really hasn't ever said anything hateful. He does look more stern, like just visibly.
That's true. He's kind of got like that face, and he's also got like a way of talks. He used to be a Utah Supreme Court justice, so he's kind of got like this sort of like legalistic kind of way of speaking that kind of gives like a no nonsense like strict teacher attitude. Like Professor McGonagall from the Harry Potter movies. Have you seen those? It's kind of like that.
That's a really good comparison.
Yeah.
That's pretty sweet.
Well, and the other thing is he likes to define terms a lot. That's because before he was a justice, he was also a lawyer. And so he's very legalistic. I mean, it just makes sense. Once you get to know people, again, we should have President Oaks on the podcast at some point. That'd be
you want me to call him?
Incredible. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll call him after this episode's over.
Talmage had personal connections with President Nelson, but Aiden's got them.
I got personal connections with the other 14. So.
Of course, yeah. He's got me trumped. I don't know.
One thing that I noticed when you started talking about how President Oaks is this figure of being direct and saying what's on his mind, and the first person I thought of was Donald Trump, and I put them side by side in my head. I'm like,
not that they're prophets.
No.
President Oaks is a prophet.
President Oaks is a prophet, ordained of God. Trump is one of the best presidents we've had for a while.
I just knew people were going to say that in the comments, so I have to clear that out.
Thank you. But they both say essentially the same things. They have similar beliefs, but the reason why I think Donald Trump is so hated on for it, for multiple reasons. One, he doesn't have a bunch of Christians following him in a Christian kind of sense, the way President Oaks does. You know what I mean? And then he's also kind of a butthead about it.
Yeah, he's rude.
He's very blunt. He talks about how he doesn't like his opponents and stuff. And
that was partly sarcastic. You can see him smile.
Yeah,
but I think there's some truth
but
to it.
But still, the fact that he said like President Oaks would never say something like that.
Correct.
I think the power that President Oaks has to say those things bluntly comes from his lifestyle, just being kind to everybody. Everyone knows he's kind.
Yeah,
it's like when you respect your dad, and then he gets really firm with you for something that you did wrong. It's kind of like, okay, I get it. Right. I still love you though. I respect you. That kind of a
right.
That was my mindset on it. So
well, and he kind of gives me that vibe of the dad. And he might not be this way, but he gives me that vibe of the dad that tells you he loves you in other ways. He's not always verbally telling you,
right?
But he's like taking the time to be with you. He's leading you. He's guiding you. He listens to you. It's that type of love. So I think that's part of it. It's just with President Nelson, it was so clear. Everyone loved him. Like honestly, it was so unifying and so inspiring to see the response globally. He really was needed, especially through the pandemic. How amazing that a medical doctor, a heart surgeon, was prophet and was able to give counsel.
That's such a coincidence that a doctor became prophet during COVID, and he's a huge peacemaker during all this political stuff. And
wonder what kind of life we're going to live through now that we've got a judge.
I think this is all speculation. This is doctrine of me, so it's totally false. But I think President Nelson did a great job of unifying us as a world, and then we're already going into some, troubling waters, and we got President Oaks leading us. We've all learned to trust revelation from God, trust the prophet. Now we have a new one, and it's going to be that wheat from the tares kind of an era.
He's also really old, so I wonder how long he'll even be able to lead for.
That's a good point.
But
I'm not entirely sure. I probably would have said the same thing maybe 2 months ago, but I remember when President Nelson first became the prophet. There was a big change in the kind of the way he spoke and the way he acted. You could see that, like, that the mantle of the Lord really fell upon him, and that he, it caused him to change. I probably shouldn't say this, but like President Nelson wasn't my favorite speaker. But when he was an apostle, like, he really wasn't, just because, like, I don't know, it felt like pretty dry as well. And then, like, everything changed during, like, his first talk as prophet, or his last talk as an apostle of the Lord Jesus Christ. You could just, like, tell that something had changed in him, that the Lord was preparing him for something great.
Yeah.
And we actually got to see a little bit of the same in Elder Oaks. Like, I've never seen that guy be emotional ever. That's kind of why he has this strict persona, is because, like, he's just, like, very, like, the law says, the Lord says, this is how it is. And that, like, this time you could really tell, like, he was deeply feeling that God's love for his children. And I think we're going to see a lot more of that going forward. There will be a change in President Oaks. He'll still be President Oaks, but he'll be different, because the Lord changes people.
You're right. No, I was noticing that too. I thought it was interesting. I mean, I think that's the first time anyone on this earth has seen President Oaks cry. It was during his talk. And it was so sweet. He's talking about his parents. That was so nice.
I love how you mentioned, like, dads earlier. Like, he's a strict dad. It says, I love you in other ways. Like, I've never seen my dad cry either. But, like, that's kind of the same feeling. Mm-hmm. Like, when you start crying, you're like, oh, what?
This is crazy.
Something just
I didn't know you could do that. Like,
yeah. Well, I love that insight, because it's so true. And people outside the church probably don't get that feeling. They don't understand it the same way. But I'm telling you right now, there is a difference when they receive that call. When anyone receives a call from God, I mean, it happens in small ways. I honestly, personally felt like I was called to be a voice for people. And that's why we started this podcast. I don't know what that means. I'm not trying to, like, elevate myself. I'm just trying to say I felt a prompting from the Lord to take action and to actually do something, instead of just complaining about how things were, to actually start making a difference. I'm telling you right now, when you get that feeling, you can't deny it. Like, it's above you. It's bigger than you. And you just have to humble yourself before the Lord and say, thy will be done. And sometimes it's not just going to work out just because he called you. Sometimes he calls you to struggle. Sometimes he calls you to difficult things. He says, push against that rock. If you've heard of that parable, he tells a man, let's just say he was, like, about 40. And he tells this man, push against that rock. And he tells him every day, push against that rock. And the man faithfully pushes against the rock. Well, the man made a mistake, and that was he assumed pushing the rock, which was what the direct command from the Lord was, meant move the rock. And after months of him pushing against the rock diligently every day, he complained to the Lord, and he said, Lord, why have you not helped me move this rock? The Lord comes back to me. He's like, I never told you to move the rock. You got that in your head. I told you to push. And then he says, look and behold, your countenance has changed. And he looks down, and he's like 8, and he's like buff and built. He is a rock now. He didn't say push the rock. He really was saying become the rock.
Become the rock.
So
you hear that, Bucked Up?
So, like, that's what I think happens is you get that call, and yeah, you're still you, but God is using you. He is moving mountains through small and simple things. He calls nobodies and turns them into somebody. So I love that. What were we going to say?
I think it's just really cool to see that these old guys, 90 plus, that they're still getting refined. That's crazy to me.
Well, and we're going to go through that same process. Yeah. Every person that's watching this, you're going to go through the same process. It doesn't matter if you're 8, if you're 80, you're going to be experiencing that. It's just if you let the Lord drive your life, you'll go places. So we're going to go ahead and talk about an issue that you said when we talked earlier is one of the more firmly set issues in your mind. And what is that issue that we talked about?
This is about pro-life policies, about abortion. This is something I don't know. At some point, I want to make a video or have something to say about this. Because I think it's important to talk about. I think it's dividing a lot of Americans, and I don't think that's good. But I'm having a hard time figuring out how to do that, because I just feel so strongly that, like a lot of the arguments pushing for, like, pro-choice, for abortions to be legal and accessible and to be used in any circumstance, it just strikes me as so wrong. Like, and I'm not afraid to say that either. Like, I don't know. I think there's something deeply wrong and deeply selfish about trying to end a life just for the sake of convenience. If there's something different, like I don't know, if a mother's life is at risk, of course that's different, because I value all life, not just the life of the unborn. And I'd even be willing to like make an exception for rape cases as well, because I do think that sort of like I don't know, that sort of violation is a little bit different. Like, you didn't have a choice in this pregnancy, and that's what people are always advocating for. It's like, it should be my choice. I think your choice should be whether you have sex or not. I don't know if that's going to get censored. Is it? Probably.
We won't censor it.
Sex. It's a normal word. It happens.
Yep.
But yeah, it's just hard because I feel so strongly about this. So I understand that like there's a lot of issues where people just like have so much energy in them that it's hard to talk about them civilly, because I still have those. It might not be everything, but it is, for that one, hard for me to talk about in a peaceful way, and it's something I'm working on.
Do you want to practice now? Because I actually slightly disagree with you.
Sure,
do
for it.
Do we want to keep filling in the context of abortion and the unborn? Or?
Yeah, I mean, I think practice
We're going to talk
would be
about
great.
it for a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay. So you said that you're okay with that. You can see allowing abortions in the case of rape. Could you elaborate on that a little bit?
Sure. I don't know. The main pro-choice argument is, my body, my choice.
Right.
And the argument against that is, well, your choice is don't have sex. Is like, don't have sex with someone if you're not willing to accept the risk of having a child from that person. Which makes perfect sense to me. Like, that's why I'm so against, elective abortion specifically. It's because I'm like, you've already made a choice. Now you're just trying to like escape, the consequences.
In most cases.
Yeah, and that is like 95% of abortions
It's more than that. It's actually 99.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I say that because that matters. We do need to know what the data is.
With rape, I feel a little bit different about it, and this actually comes from like the church handbook. That's kind of what informs my opinion kind of on this, as it says like, even in the case of rape, put a lot of prayer into it, put a lot of thought into it, take this to the Lord, because this is a big deal. But at the same time, like, this is a point where like the Lord has said like, what, this is in your hands, where he's got like a little bit more understanding. So that might not be great. Like, I'm not in the same position as like, say, Charlie Kirk was, where like even in rape cases, it might not be the best, but I don't know. I just kind of think about that. It's like, like, even if it is rape, that may not be a good thing, but I do understand where like the choice comes in. Maybe there should be an allowance for that. Maybe. I'm not super duper solid on that either, but that's kind of where my thoughts on that come from. Does that make sense?
Before you say something, I'm going to try to summarize what you just said. So, in essence, would you agree with what I'm about to say? You're saying, I think it should be legal in those select cases. I don't support every single instance a woman should make the decision to terminate the life.
I think that'd be a great way to say it.
Okay.
I was talking to someone today on my Instagram page who was conceived from rape, and she's very, very grateful to be alive. So I do understand, like, wanting to make that illegal as well. But that's just kind of where my thoughts are on it. I think more importantly is elective abortion.
Okay.
I see that. And I totally understand that point of view. I actually used to have it. And I'm going to acknowledge right now, before the comments do, we are 3 white men talking about abortion in the case of rape.
None of us have uteruses.
Yes. None of us will ever
I could
have
like
pregnancy.
this if I wanted to. If I want to be like the rest of the world, I'm not going to do that, though. I take more of a strict stance on the abortion in the case of rape. And I think if I were to think of it more personally, like if my wife or my daughter, if that happened to her, I think my opinion might change a little bit. But looking at it on paper, I mean, why would we terminate one evil action, or why would we undo one evil action with another evil action? I mean, like you were talking to that person on your page who was conceived from rape. I mean, there are miracles that happen from that. And what right do we have? It's still different DNA. It's still a different person, a different spirit. That doesn't give us the right 100% of the time to terminate that fetus, that little child. So I totally understand where you come from. I used to have that too.
Mm-hmm.
And Charlie Kirk was asked once that if his young daughter was raped and became pregnant, he said that he would encourage her to have that abortion, which is it even made me feel a little bit, like that's kind of crazy. But thinking about it, like I think that's a good fatherly move to encourage her to choose the right, even in that situation.
Did you mean not to have the abortion?
Yes.
What did I say?
You said
to not have the abortion. Not
that was Charlie Kirk
go.
would say his daughter should not have the abortion.
Should not have
Good
it.
catch.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Sorry. Yeah, and that's what ticked everybody off. And but I kind of like that idea. Thinking about it personally, if my daughter were to be raped and end up pregnant, after and during lots of fasting and prayer and talking with God, I would still encourage her to, make the better decision as she feels that it's right. And hopefully that I've raised her to make right decisions up to that point.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of how I feel about it. I don't think we're too different, but
well, and just to set a
wanted to talk
precedent,
about that.
since this is like our first serious disagreement on the channel, just want to set a precedent that no one has to feel the need to defend themselves. If you want to make more further comments, you're always welcome to. But when we share our ideas, it's not to say you're wrong, I'm shouting you down. It's a matter of, well, you've shared, I'll share, you share, and it kind of just goes around the table, and we're all equal. So, and honestly, I want the audience to decide. You guys get to listen to what we have to say. We're giving you material, we're giving you knowledge, we're giving you understanding and circumstance and context. You can take with it what you will and make your own decisions. That's totally up to you.
I do want to say, like, if someone has like a stricter pro-life policy than what I have, I don't think that makes you a bad person at all. In fact, like, I totally get where you're coming from. And I'm, this is something I'm still kind of wrestling with and thinking about. What are my opinions on this? I think that's what's most important in any disagreement is like, I can see where you're coming from. So even if I don't agree and won't change my mind, then, that doesn't matter too much. This is a little bit, I don't know. It's not that deep. You know? Sometimes it can feel that way, but I don't think it is in this case.
Can I say one more thing?
Sure.
Sorry. So we're all about having that difference and then finding the common ground. I think I have a pretty solid common ground for us. So we kind of differ a little bit on rape, on abortion. I think we can all agree that rapists should all be neutered and thrown into prison.
I would agree. That seems, no.
And I say neutered. Isn't that a term for the dogs? Mm-hmm. I chose neutered on purpose.
So it's referred to chemically castrated. Chemical castration. There's also surgical castration. I don't think that they stop them from being able to actually commit rape in the future. But the other thing is, I think
it demeans them at the very least.
I don't know.
I'm not necessarily for it. I'm okay with it because I do think that they deserve consequences for what happened. I think a more fitting consequence is either they are in jail for the rest of their life and they never have a chance for parole, or that they get the death penalty.
For raping?
For rape.
Yeah. I'm cool with that.
I think for murder and for rape, those are the two most serious. You're stealing two things from a person, either life or innocence. And guess what? Neither of those things can be repaired except through the atonement of Christ. So if I steal something from you, I can give it back to you. That's what fines are for. That's what, jail time is there to incentivize that I don't steal again in the future. If you've raped someone, though, if you've murdered, you've already lost one too many persons, innocence or life. I'm sorry. I think at a certain point. So I kind of see the castration issue. Maybe chemical castration prevents them from actually being able to rape people in the future. If that's the case, I'm for that because then they can still live, but they can't hurt another person the same way. But yeah, I think it almost borders mutilation when there are other means that we can administer punishment and consequence.
TLDR, rape's very bad. That's not a hot take. That's a sane take. That's the most sane take that I think you can take in that position.
Yeah. Thanks for bringing that common ground in.
Yeah.
And I want to mention, too, that I actually happen to agree with you. I think it should be legal. And the reason is we can't understand all the circumstances that a woman might be going through. So, for instance, maybe a pregnancy is actually going to take her life. I think it is so tragic to think of situations where the baby's going to die anyway and the mother now has to die because they can't do something to end the baby's life. Like, if you can prove and show that, okay, this is not going well, the baby is, or maybe the baby's already dead. There's circumstances like that, but that's not the issue of abortion. but maybe there's circumstances where the baby is going to have to die in order to preserve the mother's life. In cases where the baby doesn't have a chance of being born, I think we should protect abortion for those circumstances. And similarly for rape and incest. I think if a 14-year-old girl is raped, which is the example everyone brings up on the left, it's a valid example. It's very, very rare, but it is valid. I don't think it's right for us to make a law that ostracizes people that are going through those unique, even rare circumstances. But every woman, regardless of whether that was legal. So if we were able to have our way and ban 99% of abortions because it was just for essentially contraceptive purposes, I would still implore for that last 1%, please do your homework. Please pray about it. Please look into your heart and see if this is something that you absolutely should do. And maybe in emergency cases, there's no time for that. So that's another thing. But when you have time to contemplate this and decide for yourself, please consider deeply the impact that might have. Because I have heard from many people that have had an abortion that they regret having it, and that they also report being depressed following it, which it seems to last for a long duration. It's not just a go-away problem.
I've heard similar stories where people have just been traumatized, and just I don't know. It's not, you're not doing yourself a favor either.
Also, it's horrific if the baby survives.
Yeah.
Some methods of abortion are really heinous. All of them are really. Some of them are worse than others. That's another thing I would research. I implore you, research how it even takes place. It's pretty brutal. Just be educated. This is all we're about, is just be educated, make informed decisions. Another thing I want to talk about real quick too is there are people that have had abortions that the right disenfranchise because they so quickly go to, you're a bad person if you've had an abortion. Well, guess what? A lot of people that are for abortion have had abortions. And I want those individuals, especially if any of those are watching this podcast right now, to understand that we have deep compassion for you. Even though we personally believe it's a mistake, that doesn't change the fact that your soul has worth, that God loves you, that you're one of his children. And we should never let any type of political issue or moral issue give us permission to dehumanize people and to call them terrible people, and then they feel terrible, and then guess what? Did that help anyone? No.
It really doesn't.
It doesn't.
Another thing that kind of inspires me when I'm talking about politics with people, especially like with the instance that you just gave, Jesus said that there's more rejoicing in heaven over one sinner who repents than 99 just persons who need no repentance.
Yeah.
Like I will never have an abortion. Like that's it's pretty easy for me to be like, well, I'm so righteous because I never will have an abortion. But largely that's because that would be impossible for me anyway. But that's the kind of thing. It's like, if you've really felt like, I wish so badly that I hadn't done that, I am not going to throw stones at you. I'm not going to.
We are all sinners. We can't throw stones. That's why Christ asked that question.
Big time.
It wasn't condoning what the woman did, but he lovingly protected her. He lovingly stood up for her and listened. And he basically just said to everyone, listen, if you don't have sin, if one of you is holy, go ahead. Now you have a right to judge. And guess what? Everyone walked away. Even the Pharisees, the Sadducees, the religious leaders of their time walked away. Why? Because
they're filthy.
Well, we all are. That's the thing.
Right.
We would blaspheme God if we ever tried to pretend we were perfect. So we need to keep that in mind always.
Mm-hmm.
So
one thing before we get too far, you were talking about doing your research and on the types of abortions on in those rare cases. I have decided in my own mind, because I don't have a wife to help me think about things yet. I've decided that if, God forbid, if I ever was in that situation where my wife's life was in danger, if we didn't abort our child, 100%, I'll meet that child in heaven, and I'm keeping my wife. But then you started talking about all the psychological effects that the woman could have. That freaks me out even more. So thanks for that. But it is good to think about. And I think
all these decisions are more complicated than we make them out to be.
It really is. And I think the rest of the people who are watching who might have the same mentality as me, I mean, like, think about it, you know? If you're married, talk about it. If you're not, then be prepared to talk about it, because it's... Yeah.
Well, remember, almost for sure this happens with miscarriages. It happens with stillbirths. It happens with mothers that just barely gave birth and their baby died.
Right.
Anyone whose child dies, when you're a woman, you are intrinsically connected to that person. And when that person dies, your body releases hormones that lets you know. And you will go through a depressive episode. It's almost guaranteed. So no matter what happens, you're going to feel lost. You're going to feel pain. And I'm sure that there's exceptions to that. But that's just the psychological and the biochemical background into what a woman would go through during those circumstances. Anytime they lose their child, great mourning. And I mean great as in large, as unfathomable. So
can I say one more thing and then we'll move on? I think those who have opposing views than us, before you start hating up our comments, which is free speech,
you're free
go for
to
it.
do that, yeah.
Please do it. I actually like the attention.
You're
It's
free
funny.
to do that, yeah.
But before you start doing that, and before you keep advocating for abortions, just go on to YouTube or something, or your little dark pages, and look up videos of abortion. It's going to be horrifying, you know.
There's illustrations and diagram versions too, so you're not actually seeing the. You
can take that way too. The reason why I'm changing my career path and sitting here today is because I saw the close-up video of Charlie Kirk, and I'm not forgetting life changing. So, look up videos of abortions. It'll hurt you. It'll scar you. It'll be worse than the Charlie Kirk video by far. So do that, and then look back on your opinions. So, kind of a harsh invitation. I don't really give a crap. So,
that's the role Aiden plays. Is he's going to be that strong, that challenging arm to, and it's good.
We're all gonna watch me get a little bit softer over time. Hopefully,
I think
so.
Good. but we need that. I think those different tones and those different tensions help to balance everything out.
Does that mean that you're the mom and I'm the dad?
No, I'm the moderator.
The moderator. And I'm the fatherator. That was a good joke. Was that a good joke this time?
I liked it. I thought it was funny.
Did you get it?
Of course I
For
did.
context, Talmage, I don't know if you've seen it, but I said a joke our first episode. Nobody got it.
I thought he said dip, but he said tip.
Oh.
So that was my first confusion.
Have you heard the joke?
I actually
Can I tell it to him or at the end?
The video.
Okay.
We'll spare the audience.
Okay. All right.
Okay. So our last topic that we're going to discuss is an issue that Talmage has expressed that he's not quite sure where he stands on. So kind of is a good balance compared to the pro-life issue we just discussed. It's also, I don't know, I was going to say it's not as a contended issue, but I guess it is pretty contended, so I can't really say that.
Yeah, let's see. The issue's about immigration. Now, to start off, I said I was right-leaning at the beginning of this, and this is probably where I lean to the left the most, but I'm still willing to concede a couple of things. First off, I do believe that we should have a strong border. There's no national security without border security. And second, I think deportations is a pretty no-brainer punishment if somebody is breaking that law about immigration. That said, I think that what we're seeing today with ICE and what we're seeing with kind of the changing of immigration status has gone too far, and it really, really worries me. And part of that is, personal experience as well, where I've got, friends who were able to come to the country illegally, and I really don't want to see them go. These are good people, and they're also people who tried to enter the country legally first, but it was very, very difficult to do so. And entering illegally was very, very easy. So I think there should be some understanding of people have been incentivized to come to the country, quote unquote, the wrong way. The other thing that worries me the most about immigration right now is the changing of legal statuses, where visas that were supposed to be a year longer are being cut shorter, where the requirements to keep your visa are changing, where we're really trying to broaden the category of illegal instead of broadening the category of legal. We need immigration reform. So I'm not saying that ICE is Nazis. I'm not saying that deportations are always bad. They're not. But I do think that we've got a real problem here, and I think it'd be wrong to ignore it completely.
Yeah. No, and I appreciate that feedback. Something that I want to say too is a big part of my stance on illegal immigration has nothing to do with the immigrants, because I similarly, again, this is why I said I think the compassion of the left is something that's the most inspiring thing about them. Is, and that's not just me replying to something that you had already had in the list of others' comments. That is genuinely something that resonates with me. It's along the lines of the charity of Christ. As we know, one of the core definitions for what it means to be a Christian and a disciple of Christ is to love your neighbor, and to love God as well. Like love God is above loving your neighbor. But with those two things in order, that is charity. And I feel sorrow for the people that, yes, they broke the law, and yes, I think letting them skate free or stay in the country despite that is incentivizing future people and sending a message to future people that, hey, you can do that too. I still have tension with the idea of people being sent home to their native country when they're trying to be successful here. I do have a problem with the amount of money that leaves our country and hurts us economically because they're trying to help out their families in Mexico or Venezuela, or I don't know if we really have a lot of immigrants from Venezuela, people that escape from Venezuela at least. But that's beside the point. But just that economic strain that we do see, I think, is an issue. And I think this is such a complicated topic. But the people that I am really in favor of deporting are the terrorists, are the violent criminals.
I think you'd be hard pressed to find people that would not be
right.
That would want terrorists to stay. I really do. There are people like that. There really are.
Right.
But what we're being shown as far as immigration goes, we're being shown the fringes. I really believe most people want people to be able to come into the country legally, safely. I really do. And I think that most people don't want, borders open and just having drugs and, human trafficking across an open border, which is what happens with a wide open border. But all we're seeing are these extreme people of anyone of any ethnicity other than European, deport them. And on the other side, let's have the border wide open and just let anybody come, no matter what. Those aren't most people. They're just not most people.
Would you say that Trump's response to the just enter a country at will policy was, it was looking like it's an overreaction? But would you say that the reason that's happening is because of some of the panic at the state level of, we know all these terrorists that are in our country, we need to get these people out now, we can't sustain it. And so there's kind of this mass panic on the government's end of national security. And so they're rushing to correct some of the errors and inevitably are going to make errors themselves. Do you think that's accurate?
I think that would be accurate to say. Having a wide open border under Joe Biden was a big problem.
Yeah.
Big problems, that requires some heavy-handedness sometimes. So I wasn't surprised to see ICE increase and the procedural things they were able to do to deport people. Their increase in funding, their increase in personnel. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that it's good. There is a lot of circumstances that really, really worry me.
Yeah. There is such a thing as going the opposite direction.
Yeah.
The pendulum swings too far. No immigration enforcement, and then we're taking people that don't deserve or don't belong in the deportation process, and we're.
You actually bring up a great point. I was reading Mere Christianity by C.S. Lewis the other day, and he talks about how the devil sends temptations in pairs, and then gets us to spend a lot of time arguing about which one's worse. And it says the reason why should be obvious, right? He's trying to get you to say this one's worse, so you'll do the other one. So you will overcorrect. So you will come into this other temptation because, at least it's not as bad as the other one.
Right.
That's a mistake. It's a trap. Whether you believe in the devil or not, it's a trap that people fall in. We can't have these overcorrections. We can't have two bad things and then choose, this one because the other one's worse. We have to choose good. If there's the third option of choose good, choose that one.
Right. Which, by the way, a good example of that would be someone, gluttony is known as a sin in the Christian world. So you'd have someone who's gluttonous and they're eating too much, or they're consuming something at a high level, a higher than normal level. And then if Satan were to try to trick the person, they would tell them, well, you should stop eating. Now they become anorexic. Those are the two. And it's not saying that people that are anorexic are sinning. I'm saying that it's causing harm to the person's body. So it's not in accordance with a healthy lifestyle. And if you put that analogy that I'm giving you into a spiritual context, I think you kind of understand where that's coming from. So you can maybe have something that is harmful to you on the right hand and harmful to you on the left hand, whereas truth, it's in the middle.
Yeah, exactly.
I just like listening to all this. This is good stuff. I like that point you made, I guess C.S. Lewis made, about the temptations and pairs. That kind of hurts people like me, because people like me are very extreme, as you can tell.
Yep. He brings the fun to the podcast.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
But I like it. You know, it's good for me to hear that. Good stuff. I mean, did you share at all your stance on immigration? You said you leaned a little bit more left. Like, what's your leftist-ish idea on immigration?
I think that would probably be it, is that, you know, a lot of these things that ICE is doing are very, very scary.
What things are they doing?
Well, I think, for starters, they're able to racially profile people now, which they weren't able to do before.
What do you mean racially profile? Like
if they see someone and, like, you know, they're speaking Spanish, they're able to go up and they're able to ask them, you know, like, are you in this country legally or not? Before, they had to do investigations. They had to do a little bit of detective work. You know, you can't just go and like assume things. That's like, you know, that's a First Amendment right. When people bring up immigration, like human rights being violated, they're not entirely wrong to say so. Like, you know, these are serious things. Like it'd be like, you know, a cop pulling you over when you've kept every law of the road. You know, they're not allowed to do that either. But instead, now ICE is allowed to, you know, just because you look a certain way, because you're speaking a certain way, and that's I don't know, that is unconstitutional. The Supreme Court's going to rule on this a little bit later, and they're probably going to put an end to it pretty soon.
Yeah, and that is the case.
That
the Constitution does apply to non-citizens.
Yes.
Now,
does it?
It doesn't have force.
Sometimes. It depends on the verbiage.
Okay, because I was going to hit it from the other angle, saying, well, it might violate their right for a couple minutes as they're talking to them. They find out they're illegal, then they don't have our constitutional
Well, that's
rights.
actually the case in court. If you find out evidence through illicit means, then it throws the whole case is thrown out. So that is a feature of our legal system. Something to understand is it's a tricky line, because the Constitution doesn't have force in other countries. It's the law of our land, but it does have force on all people. We believe it to be universal. We believe that it states the intrinsic rights of all people.
All people that are on the United States of American land.
Well,
it doesn't
only
have,
because that's the only place where we're allowed to enforce
Right.
things.
Right.
You know, but we believe people in like another country, like Ukraine or China, they have those rights as well. They should have rights to free speech, even if the government isn't allowing them to express it.
Yeah.
Is that why when someone
not that Ukraine has free speech problems? China mostly is what I was talking about.
Is that why when someone is born here in the U.S., like from these illegal immigrants, they come over, they give birth, that child is now a U.S. citizen? Is that kind of...
That comes from an interpretation of the 14th Amendment.
Okay.
And they're debating those issues right now, because it doesn't clearly state. And there's potential that the way it's worded makes it sound like it does allow for that, but that the intent of the amendment did not allow for that it was referring specifically to citizens. So, but the concept they're deriving from it is that the moment they're born in the country, they automatically gain citizenship, which is, by the way, not a policy any other country has. So I think that's an important thing to keep in mind. We would actually be the outliers if that is upheld. If that's what the courts decide, you know, it's a tough issue.
It is. And I resonate with you. You said you got friends or you know of people that you care about that may or may not be citizens of the country. I kind of feel the same way, you know. I lived in Latino America for a few years. I watched a bunch of friends leave from Guatemala trying to get up to the U.S. I'm like, come on, guys, it's crazy right now. Don't do that. I guess then it was under a certain president. Might have been a tad easier, but...
Well, legal immigration has always been difficult. It took years. I actually know someone, one of my mom's friends, and she was in Australia, and she immigrated over here, and it took years. It has always been that way.
It's rough.
And I think certain countries it's more difficult. So as a reminder too, we are one of the most immigrated to countries in the entire world. We allow 1 million. I think it's been increased since. It used to be 1 million people per year, and we passed a law that included all their family. So their immediate nuclear family also is included. So you're having, I don't know, it depends on where it's coming from, but you have the potential for 1 to 5 million people annually. I mean, being pretty reasonable about our assumptions on how many people are in a family, that's pretty insane. That's a lot of people
to come in legally or illegally?
Legally.
Yeah.
So that's through that's a country that has, I think it's 370 million people or so right
Just
now.
about.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're having 5 million people coming into your country, 1 to 5 million people coming into your country. I mean, that's a good percentage of your nation. There's no other country that I'm aware of that has a per capita
That's very kind of us. I mean, I 100% believe the immigration system needs to be easier.
I agree.
I don't know how to even start fixing that.
More secure but faster.
Right.
More secure but faster. We transact and process the applications and do all of the background checks a lot more efficiently. I mean, every one of us has that complaint with DMV, with any other organization in the government. They're always known to be slow. Sometimes that's a good thing, like in Congress. That way they don't get out of hand. They don't pass laws too fast. That might not be the case anymore. But, you know, with other organizations, you want them to be fast sometimes, and it doesn't happen. So,
do you think there's a common denominator between DMV, immigration, all these other slow...
There's more security in government jobs. It's the same reason why Donald Trump tried to fire a bunch of people, and the courts were like, nope, you got to reinstate them. And I don't think everyone got reinstated. I think it's like they got certain cases to be reinstated.
Okay.
So, but that's the thing. That's the reason why government keeps growing every year, is that it's so much easier to hire someone, and then once they're hired, it's very difficult to fire them. And it's under the grounds of they are concerned about political motives, which I get. But that's something we should check. We should remove that ability for it to be, however is best, a political motive. But when someone's incompetent and that's just bipartisan, that should be something that takes place. We shouldn't block those events.
Agreed. Yeah.
So I think we're out of time.
Stuff.
This has been a absolutely great interview. Our first interview. I could not have been happier about how it turned out.
Kind of flew by for me. I don't know.
Yes.
I looked at the clock. Oh, geez.
Do you have any
Like 2
final
minutes
comments
over.
you want to say? Anything you want to clarify, or anything you feel you want to share with the audience?
I don't know. I just want to say, like, you know, don't hate anybody. Like, it's a complicated political world that we're living in, and there's lots of different opinions on it, and people have reasons that they hold their opinions. A little more understanding would really go a long way.
Absolutely. Amen. And again, you can go to peacemaking_politics.
Yes.
For Instagram. Is that at?
Yeah, at peace. Yeah, I think every Instagram is at first, but
okay.
But yeah, like
at peacemaking_politics. Go follow him.
Yeah.
You're about to get 30 more followers, dude. This is gonna be crazy.
Oh, nice.
Peace out, guys. Okay, that's it.
All right. Awesome.